Right, we are here. Oh my god, there's just random toolboxes in the way. Naturally. Oopsie. All I know is 10:35. Okay, I'll go to YouTube. Very good. Why is Hell's Kitchen playing on my... Why does YouTube have the number 87 next to it? I'm slightly confused by that. All right. We are here. Oh, hopefully everything works all right. I'm hoping it will. It appears that it is. That's good. I need to get my track map open. Oh, good rip. Oh, very good. I've got the track map and everything. We are pretty well, almost good to go. Hopefully track map gets open. Yep, there it is. Oh, that's a brilliantly large image, that. Very good. How's everybody doing tonight? Redemption night once again here in the CCRL. That should be a very good thing. Let me check my mic levels. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. See, this headset might sound worse quality-wise, but at least it's up against my face, so I don't need to be overly dramatically loud, although I do like being loud, as you may know. But I feel like even at this point, this is a good volume to be at. That way I can talk at a normal volume like this and still be descriptive and still be able to give you guys the best quality stream we can. Also, it's 10 o'clock at night, and I'm at my grandmother's house. Typically, if you know anything about 80-year-old women, they're in bed at this hour. So that's part of it. But nonetheless, Redemption Night up tonight should be a very good one yet again. Always fun doing these Redemption Nights. It's a good little break in the action. Well, not necessarily breaking the action, but it's a little bit of a it's good. It provides, a lot of good moments, a lot of good battling going about. When I get back to the YouTube. It's also very good now having good internet because I can have the side-by-side screen, which is very helpful. Because now, if something happens, I can actually look at it once, like a second time, and process it instead of trying to go off of pure memory, which is not always easy, but it does happen. Oh no. All right. Oh, the Cavs lost again. That's unfortunate. Go Celtics. Well, you see, Johnny Damon, I would agree with that on most levels. Um, I am in the New England area, so Boston is naturally the team I'm supposed to be supporting, but at the same time, the local blackouts make it impossible to watch. And most of the reason why I support the Cavs is Donovan Mitchell went to the prep school about a half hour down the road from where I lived back home. So I would see him play in high school his senior year, which was incredible. Funny enough, he wasn't even the best player on that team. He was about like the second or third best player behind a certain Jalen Adams, which I'm sure if you've seen the college basketball clip of him hitting like a three-quarter court shot with like half a second remaining, you probably know that. Um, I don't even know who the other person on that team was, but yeah, no, I like the Celtics, but it's a bit difficult having to try to follow the team when blackouts are around, and I don't really feel like paying the money for NBA TV or League Pass or whatever the hell it's called. I don't know. I don't like spending money on things I don't really not necessarily like need to, but I mean, could I live without it? Yes. And that's kind of the point with that. Um, like the amount of times I will begin a streaming, like the only streaming service I really hold on to is F1 TV. Okay, and then even furthermore with that, that gets uh, playoffs are more important anyways. Yeah, absolutely. I really hope the Celtics do well this year because they deserve it. And if not, this team is just going to implode. Um, I'm actually a little surprised it hasn't already. The Celtics have had a couple of good seasons so far where it's just like they've been on the brink of doing something amazing, and I don't even think there was anything about it in 2022. Like the Warriors were just a better team, but I mean previous years, I mean you could have made the argument they were one of the best teams in the league, and they just kind of I don't know. 7-Eleven announced a new hot dog flavored sparkling water, and if that's not enough to get you sick tonight, good lord. That's right. I forgot Chris Sale's on the Atlanta Braves this year. Sale was overrated, injury prone. Originally from New England, moved south. I would do that, but I think as far south as I would probably move is like maybe like Pennsylvania is really nice. I would go there. Virginia maybe is like the furthest south I would move. I don't know. I want to be able to exist. Sale was overrated, injury prone. I tell you what, it was a good idea bringing him in. It was terrible. Very unfortunate that his Red Sox tenure really didn't live up to the hype, nor that or Trevor Story, really, which is unfortunate. Um, I don't know. I feel like the pressure of being like in a Red Sox uniform is probably too much for some guys. But then again, you get these young guys like Tristan Casas who just put on the jersey and excel. So it doesn't make any sense to me. But I don't know. Baseball is a very interesting sport to try to follow. I don't know. I don't know. And I don't even live like close enough to warrant going out of my way to Red Sox games. Like there's a double A team an hour from my house, and I go there like at least 20 games a season because it's like $15 tickets. Like you can't beat that, and you can sit right on the baseline for just dirt cheap. I will recommend going to a double A game over an MLB game any day of the week that ends with Y. Seriously, it's just better. Well, anyways. Also, another thing, you get to like meet the players like up close and personal. Like these stadiums holding like 5,000 people or less, and you're just sitting right there. Like it's well, intimate. Intimate's not the right word, but yeah, kind of. Anyways, should be getting ready to go here at the Algarve International. Sorry, what's the real name of this track? It's the no, it is the Algarve International Circuit. Okay, that's kind of what I thought, but I thought I was wrong. No, no, okay, there's two of them. Autodromo do Algarve. I don't know. I don't know. Anyways, thought it said we were going to have at least 5 lads on the grid tonight. Just waiting for John the Prince, it looks. Gonna get going in 1 minute time. Hmm. Should be getting ready to go here. Hopefully. Hopefully. Appreciate y'all going along. I'm gonna check my mic one more time. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Not bad. Not bad. Pretty good. Oh, I don't want the mic that close to my head. Yeah, so even if I talk like this normal person volume, this is like fine. Probably sounds a little off, especially if it's too close to my face, but I mean, what are you gonna do? All right, countdown timer has started. I'm gonna go ahead and put this into other chats real quick. All right, well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Algarve International Circuit here in Portugal for the 16th round of the CCRL Elite Tier season. And oh, by the way, another special redemption night coming up once again here, one of the best nights of the season to commentate races on. And, before we've had this redemption night, I just want to take a look at the schedule real quick. We had it the last time at Spa, obviously very high-paced, high-energy circuits. Here we are today in Portimão. As I said, we had redemption at Spa. We had redemption at Interlagos. And then we're gonna have redemption one more time at Paul Ricard for the penultimate round of the season. But the difference between Spa and Interlagos, as far as redemption rounds are concerned, is that this track in particular, I don't know if you know anything about Portimão, it is kind of difficult to overtake on. There's not really all that much going on as far as trying to. It's a kind of a narrow circuit, really, when you think about it. The elevation changes are great, but it doesn't necessarily aid overtaking as much as we typically like to see. But still a very fun track, and I'm sure it's going to provide some great racing here today. Some rain most likely coming up as well, probably race time. I'll go ahead and look at the Elite Tier chat once more. Formation lap is off tonight, so as soon as we get going, as soon as you see the starting grid, chance of rain for the race. Remember, 11-lap sprint here. We're going to have, I think, 33 laps of the circuits in the Grand Prix itself. So should be a lot of action here tonight. While we have a minute, let's take a look at the driver's standings. On top of the table is that of Angry Walrus, Guzman second, behind by 31 points. Nick Knack third, Johnny Damon fourth, Reimer fifth, Pontiac Bandit, Urban, Owa, Merck, and Bongit round out the top 10 as far as the constructors are concerned. Alfa Romeo lead the charge at 689 points. Aston Martin 570. Mercedes kind of close to Aston Martin here, 33 points behind at 537 for that third spot. McLaren fourth, 480. AlphaTauri 374. Ferrari 363. Good little battle there going for fifth. 270 for Red Bull, 253 for Haas, 172 for Alpine, and 138 for Williams, with only one win on the season. So, with that bearing in mind, remember, you take the reverse order of the championship standings here tonight and you put them on the grid for the sprint race. Now, what we saw in previous editions of Redemption Night was that a lot of overtaking, especially from the lads in the back, the championship contenders who will have to come up through the field in order to get a good starting spot for the season. But Autodromo do Algarve F1 circuit this in Portimão, the first track to host the Portuguese Grand Prix since Estoril did in 1996. That was, of course, in the COVID-19 revised 2020 season, and it was a pretty fun track. I mean, I feel like it's, in some way, it's very unique in its own right. I mean, you got a very quick right-handed corner, that first corner, Primera, that doesn't leave a lot of track space on the outside, up into the tight right-hander of Lagos, up the hill, off camber through turn 4, down the straight there with DRS into the VIP tower corner, and then obviously sector 2 full of the elevation changes. Then coming out of the 14th corner of Sagres, and then in towards the Galp corner, otherwise Shed corner, I guess is the translation of it, through turn 15. It's very difficult track, and as well as being difficult as far as overtaking, this track is also difficult for regeneration of the energy store. And so we're going to see a lot of drivers trying to save up the battery as much as they can tonight. Maybe some of it to no avail, has to be said. It's going to be a difficult one for our grid here tonight, but either way, should be a very fun race to be had. And we're just waiting now on the grid to begin. Remember, formation lap is off, so when we see the drivers on the grid, that'll be that. Just putting my streams out in a couple of more places, but we'll get going here shortly, hopefully. And there we go. Lights turning on here. We're on the grid. 4 and eventually 5 lights here in Portimão for the sprint race, and they're off. Shiesty lines up on pole. Agnote second. Down in towards Primera corner now. As they enter the corner, a little bit further back, Hemphead actually made it to the 3rd spot, then has a horrendous wiggle. Coming out of turn 2, will drop down to 6th. Atop the grid, Shiesty still leads here, and for the time being, looks as if he's gotten away okay. Allow me to bring up the lap data on the track map here so we get a full understanding what's happening. Down the straight they go. Shiesty has a very good lead there. Agnote having to defend from behind by Charlie Gulf. Curveball looking for it there. A little bit further back to Williams of Hemphead down to the inside of Reimer. Very talented driver Reimer, that is. A little bit of a difficult move to try to be made. Heading through Samsung corner now atop the hill. Coming up here, gotta be wary of the oversteer you will face as you go through this corner. As you can see ahead, our Manson had a little bit of a struggle there. 4 cars really jumbled up now through Craig Jones into the Portimão section now. Reimer getting down the inside of our Manson. Hemphead losing spots left and right here. Bonga and Guzman will make their way to the right side of the Williams in question. And atop the grid, as you can see now, Shiesty has a 2-second advantage over the rest as they make their way in through Sagris corner and Galp corner up now. Down the straight goes Shiesty. 2.5 seconds already by the time they complete the first lap. Remember, 11 laps of this sprint race yet to come, 33 laps of the Grand Prix later on. This race sets the grid for the full Grand Prix coming up here in a little bit. Reimer now 0.2 of a second back to Owa. This is for the 5th spot. If we look at the good movers, as Reimer down to the inside into Delago corner. This is a tricky one to get right. And then up the hill through turn 4. Hopefully the back end doesn't get round. No, it doesn't. He stays good. Still 6th spot, up 5 from the beginning of the Grand Prix. Very, very good. Guzman getting around the outside of Bongit here on the way into the VIP Tower corner. Someone who hasn't had a good getaway here is Hemphead, down 7 positions through that first corner. Had a really good attempt around the outside and then got a super wiggle coming off the curb going through turn 2. And I'm afraid he has only been plummeting since then. As Reimer round the outside of Owa through the Craig Jones corner, named after the English motorcycle rider who tragically died. That's why it's named that way. I didn't try to make that sound interesting, but Shiesty coming through Sagris corner, Galp corner up next, has a pretty good handle on the grid here. Should not see any pit stops being made unless wing damage is to be had. Guzman now within 0.2 of a second on our Manson. They'll get DRS coming up through turn 4 this time by, as it's the 3rd lap of the sprint race here. Up the hill, down the pit straight they go. Guzman tries the inside of Manson, and it looks as if he might get this one before they head into the corner, and he's going to hope that he does. Don't really want to go side by side through the corner. It's difficult to get right and to stay within track limits by yourself, never mind having a driver right up against you there, and he's done just that. So, curveball now, the AlphaTauri's got a good run on Agnote, exiting turn 4. Down the straight they go, in towards the VIP Tower, and it looks as if Curveball's going to get this one. Yes, he does. Curveball up 3 spots since the beginning now. I remember he had a pretty solid race in the last redemption round. I thought we did. Well, a little bit of a slide there going up the hill through Samsung corner as they make their way down. Charlie Gulf within position here. Reimer looking to close in on this battle as well. Not as close as he'd like to be, although if we take a look at the tires people are on, well, the top 2 on the softs, that would explain why Shiesty's gotten away so well. Big kind of accordion effect happening there. The AlphaTauri got slow into the corner, collected the Red Bull, nearly the Haas and the McLaren and the Mercedes as well, heading into that 13th corner there. Round through Galp corner now. Look at this. It's almost like NASCAR, side by side through the corner. 5 cars here, all within position to overtake each other. Look at this. Down the straight they go. Reimer's going to choose the inside. Guzman and the Charlie Gulf all file in line. Reimer gets up the 4th, nearly into the back of the Red Bull in question there. Guzman back down the inside as Reimer goes off the track. Guzman's going to send it on Agnote as well. Guzman double overtake there in towards Lagos corner. Very nicely done. Now he's got an opportunity to get curveball as well. Down the straight, heading in towards VIP Tower corner, and Guzman is going to have 3 cars there in just a couple of corners. Very nicely done for Guzman, who promotes himself up to the 2nd spot. As we look behind Charlie Gulf, getting in on this as well. Very close. Guzman up 11 spots so far. Ridiculous amount. Ridiculous amount of overtaking there. And now extra side-by-side. Charlie to the inside, going through Craig Jones into the Portimão corners. It looks as if Charlie's going to stay ahead of the two Red Bulls now as they do invert position. And now Agnote under pressure from Manson. Oh, that's Manson on the outside there. Contact made a little bit more as well as they make their way through 12 and 13 here. A lot of contact. Oh, and, well, that's even more. And Agnote, unfortunately, now facing the wrong way on the circuit after a lot of contact there with either of the Aston Martins in question. They were trying to make their way side by side up the hill, and unfortunately Manson and Agnote really got into it a lot more than they probably should have. That was a noticeable couple of contacts there. To the inside is Charlie on curveball through Primera corner. He'll get it, but he'll go off track in the process. Now close together here is curveball and Charlie Gulf making their way through Lago corner now. No overtake there, but let's see who gets away better exiting VIP Tower, and it looks as if Charlie Gulf will get away good enough to at least hold the spot. Walrus now down to the inside of Owa. That's going in through VIP Tower as Pontiac Bandit a 5-second penalty for speeding into the pit lane. The stop that he shouldn't have had to made, really. He shouldn't have had to need to make it. English is apparently not my first language. To the inside is Hemphead. Had to go heavy over the inside curb. Urban trying to stick it around the left side, and he will get around the Williams in question. Pontiac Bandit, I'm assuming a wing change as well for the AlphaTauri. 10th and a half here. Walrus looks down to the inside on curveball, the championship leader. Oh, and curveball's gone quite wide then. Can I just go along with that battle once more? Because I'm actually not sure why I just saw, or why it was that he's gone that wide. So there I was looking along with Pontiac Bandit. Now into the corner they go. They were side by side. Walrus went down to the inside. No contact was made. The AlphaTauri has just purely lost a track position there. Owa down to the inside. He'll get around Angry Walrus. That'll be good for him. Up to the 5th spot now. Still trying to hold it on the inside there. Walrus looking to try to make something happen. A couple of laps left in the sprint race here. Walrus, great acceleration at a turn 4. Now has the inside line, heading down the straight in towards turn 5 now. And it looks as if, yep, he's going to get that one. Walrus up 9 spots. Very good for him. Walrus up 9. Reimer up 8. Guzman up 11. So the usual suspects who we kind of figured were going to be making their way up to the top of the grid have done just that. And for the most part, they've done it clean. Guzman did it very well. Walrus, well, he was kind of in amongst the mess there, as it was a couple of the Red Bulls and his teammate all battling about. I'm actually a little surprised only Pontiac Bandit has managed to pick up wing damage that forced him to pit, because there was a lot of cars in that sort of area of the track, and I'm a little surprised we didn't have a couple of pileups there. A lot of racing happening here. So at the stripe this time will be 5 laps to go. Shiesty has 2.5 seconds. Oh, and it looks as if Curveball's had a spin here. This is making their way out of Segris corner. And as he just smacked the throttle a little bit too much on the way out, probably. To the inside goes Bongit. He has it over Owa. That's on the way into Primera corner. Now Charlie, a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings, one of only 2 drivers so far today to pick up time penalties in that one. Well, that's very unfortunate. He's got a couple of drivers really close to him. Charlie's going to be losing some spots here. To the inside, well, I thought Walrus was going to look to the inside. As he turns out, he's trying to play it a little bit more conservatively there. Looking a little bit further back, Urban having a peek to the inside of Johnny Damon. Nothing there to be had, I'm afraid. And still, Shiesty having a clear lead here of Guzman, although what I will say, for the gap being 2.7 last time by, Guzman has shaved 6, almost the full 7/10 of a second off of the driver atop the grid. As a matter of fact, he's now within 2 seconds here. I'm thinking those medium tires are coming in very well compared towards the softs that, well, obviously he would have started the race on. Now, again, being that there's not many tire rules going from qualifying to one to the other, we don't know much about the length and the longevity of the soft tires. Shiesty probably thought he could get the whole way, and, well, as it turns out, Guzman 4/10 of a second away from having DRS after that gap being over 3 seconds just a couple of laps ago. Charlie Golf nearly having a look at Walrus there. Just a little bit too far behind, I'm afraid. But Urban down to the inside of Johnny Damon, heading down the pit straight, and he'll have that one before they get to the braking zone. Manson again looking at Owa here. And now, well, hang on just a minute. Look at this. I was just talking about how he was almost within DRS range. For Shiesty, having a 3-second lead or more earlier on is now down to 7.5 of a second here. Only the 2 DRS zones on the circuit, as I'm sure you're aware by now. That second one, going out of turn 4 into the VIP corner VIP tower corner of turn 5, as we can see the Red Bull of Agno tape making his way in there now on the mini-map. That DRS zone is not worth all that much, has to be said. Not a lot is going to happen there, but what is happening, Charlie Golf losing it to Bongit, and Owa, who I was initially looking to go along with there, has lost the spot to Manson. I think a couple of errors being made there amongst the drivers in question. But for the time being, the battle for the lead and pole position down to within 0.4 of a second, and it's only getting closer. Guzman here has saved up, I think, well, I tell you what, Shiesty's actually saved up a lot more battery than that of Guzman. 3 laps to go. Guzman will have to look to the inside, and I think he's going to have that one rather easily. The soft tires have worn out here, and Guzman takes the lead of the the sprint race, up 12 spots since the beginning. And all fair play to Shiesty. He had a hell of a good lead there initially, and I think the tires just starting to go away from him, but still to only lose 1 or 2 spots here to three of the fastest drivers on the grid is going to be one heck of an achievement there for Shiesty. Oh, and a big accident here. Johnny Damon and Urban go around. This is coming out of Primera corner, turn 1, I'm afraid. Well, I talked about this not too long ago as we try to have 2 drivers go through that corner. Not really going to work all that well. Again, very difficult to get 1 driver correctly through that corner. Track limits does creep up on you there very quickly on the outside, and I'm afraid maybe was there something happening there between that of Johnny Damon and the Mercedes in question. I'm not entirely sure, but either way, unfortunate for Johnny Damon. He's now down 1 spot. Remember, he's in this championship battle a little bit on the outside looking in as far as, I think he's, 5th in the standings right now, as R. Manson now picking up a 3-second penalty. Him and Charlie both on 3-second penalties apiece. 2 laps to go now, the top 3 within 1.5 seconds of each other this time as they make their way down the pit straight. Let's see, I'm going to open the telemetry. Reimer 10% battery, Shiesty 44, Guzman 27. Again, this is a very difficult track in trying to harvest energy store. This is one of those tracks that very much will test you, as there's not a lot of heavy braking zones here in towards Lagos corner. That's a relatively heavy braking zone down to 2nd gear. VIP tower is up next, but after that, those are really only 2 of the heavy braking zones on this track. Not much in the way of regeneration possible anywhere else. I mean, maybe going in towards Sagrees corner, but at that part, you're already going slow enough, I think, to really, not make that much of a difference. Maybe up the hill here through Samsung corner, down to 2nd or 3rd. I mean, it's not a huge regeneration spot. We won't see many drivers looking to harvest in that section of the track, but yeah, again, very difficult. And what's interesting here that the drivers are not seeing, and what you're not seeing as well, because we have no regular qualifying session, typically that quali session gets very difficult because these cars do not have enough energy store to make it round the circuit. They do not have the continuous push and pull. It's really only just pull, and the cars will not have enough energy store and allocated battery life to actually make it round the track. You'll oftentimes see drivers wait until very last minute on their qualifying runs to actually flick the battery on. Well, final lap of the sprint race now. Guzman has had a hell of a sprint race here. He's up 12 spots. Shiesty has done, I would say, equally as well. He had a massive lead to begin with, and he's held on to these soft tires for over 10 laps now, which I'm assuming is pretty good for a set of soft tires. And well, he's amongst some pretty talented company here. Amongst the top 4. Walrus up 10, Reimer up 8. Reimer, of course, not having to do nearly as much, considering he's, I think, 4th in the standings, I thought I said earlier, so only needing to go up 8 spots. But once again here in Redemption, now this has surprised me a little bit because, again, as we were talking about earlier, Spa and Interlagos, the 2 tracks in which we had Redemption before, very much tracks where overtaking is possible. This one, you really got to work for it. And to see Guzman, Reimer, and Walrus get to the top of the grid here makes it even that much more impressive. But this is interesting here. Guzman, flashing red fuel indicator, as you can see there. Johnny Damon is retired to the pits. Flashing red fuel indicator here with a couple of corners to go. Is Guzman going to be able to make it? It might be close. Behind Reimer looking to pressure Shiesty. Out of Segri's corner, heading towards Galp now. And I think Guzman's going to be able to make it home here. It's a great effort from Guzman, up 12 positions, and will win the sprint race and start on pole for the 33 laps of the Portimão circuit yet to come in the Grand Prix. Shiesty, fair play to him, finishes second amongst some very talented company here. Reimer third, Walrus fourth, Bong at fifth. Only 4 drivers actually managing to improve position in the sprint race. Owa stays the same. Down 7 is Curveball. Down 8, Anyote. Down 6 is Hemphead. Remember, Hemphead had a really good start initially, and then coming out of the first corner, nearly lost the car on oversteer, and it finishes well towards the back end of the grid. But the 2 AlphaTauri drivers, unfortunate for them, and we're just waiting for Pontiac Bandit to cross the line now. But Guzman on pole for the sprint race. Shiesty second, Reimer third, Walrus fourth, Bong at fifth, Charlie sixth, Owa will start 7th, Manson will be 8th, Hemphead 9th, Anyote 10th, 11th will be Urban, 12th Pontiac Bandits, 12th is Curveball, 13th Pontiac Bandits, and rounding out the grid, P14 will be that of Johnny Damon. I tell you what, we're going to have ourselves a great battle for the win, not to mention the amount of racing we did see in the midfield. Oh, this is going to be a fun one. So that would be a good time, if you haven't done already, to place your race predictions now that you know what the starting grid's going to look like. Again, Guzman will be on pole. Shiesty second, fair play to him. Third will be Reimer. Fourth, Walrus. Fifth, Bongit. Sixth is Charlie. Seventh is Owa. Eighth, Manson. Ninth is Hemphead. Anyote rounds out the top 10. Urban, Curveball, Pontiac Bandit, Johnny Damon round out the grid. So, once again, the battling that we did have atop the grid, phenomenal. The battle that we had in the midfield as well, very good. We're going to have a lot to try to pay attention to. Hope you stick with us. If you'd like now, go ahead and drop your race predictions. Drop who you think is going to win. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I mean, well, you don't have to, but I'd like you to. That'd be pretty cool. Anyways, Guzman on pole. Let's see if he can hold on to it. And so as you can see now, I'm sure you notice, it does look a bit of a gray day here in Portimão. Again, very much a possibility that rain could be on its way somewhere here in the session. There is a chance of rain. What the percentage is, I'm not sure. But what we do know is this. It did look as if rain is probably going to be on its way, which adds a whole extra, additive of just difficulty with this circuit. I mean, it's difficult already because of the oversteer you'll get with the elevation changes. Then add the threat of rain to it. Yeah, it's going to be a fun one. Remember, formation lap is off, so whenever we see those drivers on the grid, we see the lights start turning on, you'll know it's time to go. So Guzman telling me now, appreciate it, Guzman. It looks as if the middle third of the race, we're going to start dry here. The middle third of the race will go to the wets, and it'll probably dry out again by the time we hit the end of the Grand Prix. And, of course, if safety car comes into play, that we will get more dry running at the end of the Grand Prix. But if we stay green flag throughout, it looks as if it may even look as if towards the end of the race is going to be wet. So what we do know is this. The rain on its way. According to Guzman's image that he sent me, it's around, I would say, maybe the 10 or 11 lap mark. Perhaps. Tough to tell. But what we do know is that the rain is going to be on its way here in Portimão. Should be a very interesting race to come. And just waiting for the cars to take their place on the grid for the 16th round of the season. Coming up next in the CCRL Elite Tier. Should be a couple of good rounds on their way. A long season this, and I'm very glad to see we got a lot of racing on the way. Barcelona next week in the new and revised circuit, Vegas the week after that, and Baku your next three. Hungary, Paul Ricard, and Yas Marina rounding out the season here. Should be a very entertaining conclusion to this season. I can't wait. A lot of good tracks in that last 6 rounds here, has to be said. Once again, just waiting for the lobby host to start the countdown timer, and once we see the cars on the grid, it will be time to go. 33 laps of the Algarve circuit here in Portimão. Rain definitely on its way. Just waiting to see here. I'm sure we're going to have mostly drivers on the softs to begin this race, considering we are supposed to have that rain. I would assume around the 10-lap mark. That's what I would guess. According to the image that I got sent, it pretty much said first third of the race is going to be dry, second third is going to be the wets, and then towards the back end of the race, it does have a chance to dry out. Whether or not that happens is going to be the question at hand. If it does stay green throughout, which I kind of doubt it will, if it does stay green throughout, we've got a good chance of it going just solely dry to wet. But it does look as if dry, wet, dry is going to be the name of the game. So that last 10 laps or so, or less, is going to be very, very interesting when that track starts to dry out. Once again, just waiting for the lobby host here. Oh, there it is. Wait, I don't like this camera. Someone get, there we go. Lights turning on here. 4 and eventually 5. And for the Portuguese Grand Prix, they are off. Guzman has a very good start on the outside. Scheisty got away halfway decent, but Reimer really, really well around the outside. He'll get up to the second spot before they even get into the corner. Side by side behind, it was Angry Walrus and Bonget were side by side. Bonget actually lost a couple of spots there. Charlie's made his way around, and as they make their way up the hill through turn 4, a little bit further behind, a couple of good battles going on here. We got the Williams of Pontiac Bandit, the Williams of Hemphead and Pontiac Bandit side by side. Bonget getting around Owa on their way, and the rain starting now. Very interesting. The rain already falling here in Portugal. That's a big accident at the back. It's Owa and Pontiac Bandits colliding there. Track stays green, but the rain is now falling here in Portugal, as you can see on your screen. Reimer, you can see the rain, the beads of rain streaming on the chassis of his Mercedes. So, couple of laps here, and we will already have intermediate tires on the way. I don't believe it'll get severe enough to go to the full wet, but what I would say is this: all but 3 drivers starting on the soft tires. That would tell me that that rain was going to be happening very shortly, and only a couple of drivers getting caught out. But Guzman, being that he got away to such a good advantage, I don't think he's going to have to worry about what tires he started on, because already 8.5 tenths over Reimer as they make their way out of Galp Corner now down the pit straight. For the first time, Walrus now within a tenth of a second of Reimer. He'll have to look to the inside, and the Aston Martin, who leads the championship standings, will get around the Mercedes in question, and now has the freedom to try to battle to Guzman here. It's half a second or less. The rain falling, the soft tires on for Walrus. So those in the soft tires will have to pit a bit later as Scheisty goes round. That's going out of turn 2, and unfortunate for Scheisty, what a beginning to this race day that he had. Those on the soft tires will have the ability to stay out a little bit later than those in the mediums. Remember, when you have a grippier tire like that, even if it is slick, when the rain starts falling, you will be better off. And so, all but the 3 drivers who did start on the softs are going to be pretty good here. So Bong, Urban, and Guzman might have to have a look at stopping early here. That may be the best scenario. And now, as they make their way through the Craig Jones corner, Walrus, a tenth and a half here on Guzman. Into the Portimão section. Looks as if, it's not quite going to be close enough to make something happen. Johnny Damon gets around Manson there, that being for the 7th spot. 4.5 tenths of a second here. Guzman, despite being on less grippy tires than that of Walrus, is sure holding that McLaren steady here, and I'm wondering when he decides to pit. It's going to have to be this time by. There's no way at the rate that the rain is falling he could stay out another lap. And it looks as if, well, I guess I'm allowed to be wrong. He has stayed out another one. Walrus now down to the inside, sets the fastest lap and gets the top spot all in one go. Guzman relegated to second here and now has to wait one more lap in the rain on the medium tires on a track that's going to be getting quite damp here rather quickly. No DRS, I don't think. I did not see that it had been turned on by race control. Nope, there it is. DRS actually activated. I don't expect that to last for more than a lap here. On the way into the VIP tower corner, Guzman still trying to battle hard, and that was a big wiggle on exit there for Walrus, nearly losing the car on acceleration. Guzman holding that McLaren so steady at the moment. It's impressive what he's able to do. Reimer looking in on this battle, hoping that one of the two cars makes a mistake ahead. Half a second behind Guzman here. Nearly the top two came together going up through the Samsung corner. No real, hints of mistakes happening there. We'll stay along with this now. Half a second as they make their way through the 13th and eventually 14th and 15th corners. Segris now, and then eventually Galp, the shed corner, coming up next. Exiting the shed corner. It looks as if. Does Guzman decide to pit now? No, he doesn't. Guzman stays out. Now, and this is interesting to me because does this tell me that the rain is going to continue to fall at this very light pace for the time being? DRS still activated by race control, so the track has not been declared wet. So that would tell me, does Guzman believe that this rain is going to halt here somewhere in the proceedings and we're going to go back to the dry? I mean, I doubt that's going to happen, but I mean, it sure looks as if Guzman is kind of prepared for that sort of things to happen. Down the back straight now, with DRS going to look to the inside, nothing there. Reimer a little bit further behind, 6.5 tenths of a second. Reimer kind of quietly watching the two battling ahead of him as Urban getting down the inside of Johnny Damon into the VIP tower. Damon round the outside with the softs. No, Urban's going to keep that spot very nicely. Oh, but Urban's going to, well, he's going to move down to the inside. I think that was more error and oversteer than it was actually doing that. Agnote and Curveball here would be the second AlphaTauri and Red Bull battle we've had so far. The first one ended with Owa and Pontiac spinning out through the VIP tower. I'm a little surprised they were able to stay on track, but battles up and down the grid so far. We'll check back with our leaders in a second. Hemphead was, well, at the time, within a tenth and a half of Manton there. He's kind of fallen back a little bit. Exiting, Segris going through Galp corner now. I'm assuming we're going to see the pit stops this time by, but still, the track, I will say, in fairness to these drivers here, the track it does not look wet enough to actually warrant pitting. DRS still activated by the stewards here, by the race control here, but once again, the track not declared wet. You can see, not visibly greasy. And this rain has been falling since the first lap of the Grand Prix, so I'm a little surprised that we're getting this much dry running. Pontiac Bandit getting around Agnote. Agnote's on his way into the pit lane. Hemphead will get down to the inside of Curveball now as they go into Lago corner. Oh, he's going to have to not necessarily send it in there, but Curveball kind of got back onto the track after going wide through turn 1 and 2. Hemphead does make that move happen. Agnote to what looks to be, I'm assuming intermediate tires. Yes, intermediate tires there for Agnote, the first driver of the day, to pit for said intermediate tires. And now you can start to see the water pile up on the circuit. You can just start to see the little puddles forming there as the rain continues to fall. Charlie on a 3-second penalty now, first driver of the day, to pick up a track limits penalty here so far. Now I would assume we're going to be seeing these drivers pit for the intermediate tires. You see the water start to pool up on the track, not necessarily in massive puddles, but you can visibly see how the water is starting to collect. Let's see what they decide to do. Remember, a lot of rain on the way. We do know that. At least a good portion of this race will be taken in the wet conditions. Walrus, what does he do? Walrus stays out. Guzman stays out. Reimer decides to come in. Very bold. Again, DRS not been deactivated yet. Guzman round the outside, and it looks as if he's going to get the Aston Martin back here for the top spot. Reimer pits. He'll go to the intermediate tires as we kind of expected. A lot of drivers still choosing to stay out. Matter of fact, only 2 so far have pit for those intermediate tires, but now we also see the Alfa Romeo of Johnny Damon coming in as well, and I believe that's Pontiac Bandits who was coming in, has picked up 5 seconds for speeding into the pit lane. Very surprised to see this amount of people still staying out on the dry tires, as look how wet that this circuit appears to be. Well, I don't know why that's happening, but it appears that I've got some sort of, not necessarily connection issue, but my laptop is having trouble staying onto the stream here. There we go. Back along with it now. 4.5 tenths of a second. 4 drivers currently occupying the intermediate tires. Reimer, Damon, Agnote, and Pontiac. The only drivers to so far pit. Everyone else, including, surprisingly, all 3 drivers who started the race in the mediums, still on track. That surprises me quite a lot. But I will say this, Guzman has that car very much under control here. Despite Walrus being on the soft tires, it only overtaken Guzman for just a little bit, and now it looks as if the medium tire is doing well. Guzman stays out another lap. Walrus chooses to follow suit. Walrus is not exactly closing in on the McLaren, though. Might be a little difficult. Probably some thinking left to do here. As the rain continues to fall, still no takers for the pit lane. Let's see if Manson and Hemphead decide to make the dive. No, they don't. Urban stays out as well. Curveball finally decides to take the bait, and into the pit lane he goes. Will be the 5th driver of the day to pit for the rain tires, which is a little surprising. Look how much it is raining. Look how much water is visibly on the circuit. A little bit of a mix-up there, I think, between Hemphead and Manson. As Manson goes around, this is going through Lago Corner. I'm a little surprised he didn't pick up... Yep, well, no, that was Pontiac Bandit. A little surprised that Manson didn't pick up a time penalty just then. He had spun going into the corner, and, well, he had to pretty much cut the corner, although he's not gaining an advantage. So, either way, started with 14, still at 14. Only a couple of penalties being picked up here. Pontiac, however, on 8 of them. Reimer now getting around Manson. So Reimer on the intermediate tires, much quicker than that of Manson on the softs, on the dries. So that will be something that Guzman and Walrus have to kind of look at here as they make their way now. Exiting Sagres Corner in through Galp. I'm assuming this is going to be the time we see the driver's pit. I mean, this is a noticeable amount of rain. Guzman makes the dive. Walrus does not. Very bold decision-making there from the Aston Martin driver who chooses to stay out on track. Walrus will go through the first couple of corners here. This will be his only other reconnaissance lap as we have the Aston Martin of Manson, a bit of a slide there. So Guzman for the intermediates, rather predictably there. Charlie on his way in. Hemphead stays out. That's another bold one. So the top 2 drivers decide to stay out here. Charlie looks as if, no, he's pitting finally, as Urban on his way in, Owa on his way in, R. Manson on his way in. So the top 2 still have yet to pit here, although if you look at this, that rain not exactly falling all that heavily. It does look as if perhaps could there be a situation where the rain dries out before the intermediates are really necessary. That's what Walrus and Hemphead are trying to look for here. The rain's still falling, but do they believe that they can get around this rainstorm on the dry tires and be able to stay out on track and not have to make the pit stop? That is definitely what Walrus believes, as he's 20 seconds ahead of Hemphead here. But the question is going to be, as we see Reimer, Hemphead had a big slide there. Reimer definitely with more grip on the intermediate so far, made a couple of positions, and now looks to get down the inside of Hemphead through the Portimão corners now, way to the inside. Is he able to get around the Williams? Yes, he does. Now Guzman is up next for this battle. Let's see if Guzman can do it also in the intermediates. Walrus finally decides to come in here. Guzman down to the inside of the Williams, and Hemphead's going to have to stop this time by. There's just no way he can continue with the conditions at hand. So, intermediates on track, but what's actually a little surprising is that I don't believe race control has turned off DRS, and well, finally there it is as I mention it. If I didn't say anything, it probably would have stayed on, because that's just my luck. That would have been interesting to have DRS in the rain. Walrus on his way out now. Looks as if he's going to only be relegated to the 3rd spot. Hemphead may be losing more positions than that. He'll be losing it to probably down to 8th or 9th would be my guess. Charlie now naturally improving as well as Bong it. Hemphead looks like he's going to be losing the spots both to the Red Bull of Agnote and Urban as well. Guzman now, look at this, down to the inside of Reimers for the lead of the Grand Prix, into the turn 5, the VIP Tower corner, side by side in the wet conditions. I mean, does that not display the quality of the grid that we have here in CCRL? That was brilliantly done. Now, I'm not sure, but Guzman, for the most part, has looked the quicker car. Not only that, he's got a couple of laps younger tires than that of the Mercedes of Reimer. I think Reimer might be struggling on pace just a little bit. As you can see now, already outside of a second. He's only just been overtaken going in towards. I mean, that was just a sector ago. We have had a yellow flag just now. It looks as if Pontiac Bandit may have had a spin. Either way, he's held onto the car, and the track stays green. Again, so should the track stay green the entirety of the way through, we will be seeing the dry weather once again as we have another yellow flag. This time, Pontiac Bandit again spinning, unfortunately for him. But again, doesn't hit anything. The track stays green. So closest battle on track is that of Urban trying to look round the outside of Agnote here through Segri's corner. A little bit of a bold part of the track to make something happen. And, well, Urban's done it rather convincingly. Nicely done. To the inside now looks Bong, and he's looking for it on Charlie Gulf in through the first corner. Difficult spot to try to make something happen, and I think Bongit realizes that. Well, both him and Charlie go very, very wide. Again, difficult couple of corners to get correctly. Curveball making a 3-second time penalty now, one of the 3 drivers on the grid to have picked up said penalties. Hemphead, is he on the way into the pits again? This is a little odd. Does Hemphead require a front wing change? Yes, he does. Oh, I must have missed where he's picked up that accident there, but front wing on the way for Hemphead, unfortunately for him, relegated all the way down to that 13th spot, and I'm sure was Pontiac Bandit on the way in now. A couple of wing changes perhaps needing to be made here. Bonging within a couple of tenths of Charlie. Charlie not having the best exit out of the Portimão corner, nearly collecting. Bongit now as they're really close together as they make their way through turn 12 here. Sorry, that's turn 13 at this point. Here's Segri's turn 14. Heading towards the Galp corner. Mind you, Johnny Damon starting to poke his head on this battle as well. Bit of a quiet day so far from Johnny Damon, but he's still there. A third of the way through the Grand Prix. We've had dry, we've had wet, and we've had overtakes. 3 things that we do love to see. To the inside now is going to look Bongit into turn 1. I kind of figured that one was going to happen. Now, last time they tried to go through the corner, they both went wide, and they'll go wide once more. Actually, Bongit stays on track. Charlie has to track extend. I'm sure he still picked up a track limits warning for that. To the inside looks Curveball on Agnote. He'll get the 8th spot there despite having the penalty to his name. Walrus within 7.5 tenths of Reimer here. Reimer's actually fallen off of Guzman by about 3.5 seconds. We thought that Guzman was quicker on pace. We didn't think that much. Making their way now in swords. Oh, we've got Agnote and Shiesty battling once more, this time through VIP Tower turn 5. It looks as if, well, I tell you what we got the Aston Martin of Manson off there. That's exiting turn 4. Difficult corner to get right even in the dry, and I'm afraid that the Aston Martin has gone round. Walrus now 0.4 of a second next to Guzman here. Again, I would argue that this Aston Martin is the quicker car between the two involved. Reimer out ahead because of strategy, but I don't think it's going to last very long. Walrus to the inside now, and I think he's going to have this one relatively easily. Pass to the Mercedes is down the pit straight they go, and into the first corner. Reimer had a brilliant start off the line there, had to be said, and he was out and looking in a good position. But the pace on these two ahead are just so surreal how quick they are. Bongit and Charlie once again will try to battle into the first corner. Hopefully this time all goes to plan. Still side by side. Once again, Charlie's going to have to go off the track and comes back on track. Somehow, again, doesn't pick up penalty for it. I'm a little surprised. But Bongit does, for the time being, still remain behind Johnny Damon here as, well, I hate to say it, but the sky's kind of getting lighter here. We might be starting to see the dry running sooner rather than later. Deep into the corner is that of Charlie. Goes a little bit wide, but Bungit's still unable to make the move happen as Shiesty. Well, I'm sorry, that was an accident by Curveball. He's taken the polystyrene DRS board on the inside there. Thankfully, that is all that he's hit. The front wing remains attached to the car, and the track stays green. Shiesty now picking up a 3-second penalty, so both the drivers manning the Haas-powered machines have picked up penalties. That'll be 4 drivers, of which on the day with 3-second penalties. Pontiac Bandit has since come in, served as 5, has picked up an additional 3-second, is now down to 6. Half a second here between the two. Looks like Bong is certainly trying his best to have a look at Charlie here. Down the pit straight they go. Bonget's going to have a look. Now this time, does Bonget have enough battery saved up to perhaps overtake the Haas? And it looks as if for the time being, no, they're still going to be side by side in the corner. Bonget has the inside. Oh, that one's going to get close, but Charlie has to go off track again. Tell you what, Bonget, from the looks of it, I mean, it's I don't want to say it's obvious, but he is trying to be very conservative with his energy store. Again, it's a difficult track to try to maintain and regain some of the energy store that you do burn around the circuit. And Bonget, being that he's at this much, tells me he's trying to be as conservative as he can with it. 73%, as you can see. And not really, I don't want to say not necessarily pressuring Charlie Gulf at the moment, but kind of just staying stagnant. He's not really had very many good looks to overtake the Haas. He's been down to the inside of turn 1, but again, that turn 1 being as sharp and as quick that it is, if you are down the inside of somebody, it's going to end poorly, no matter which way it happens. Walrus has actually shaved a little bit of time off the gap to Guzman here. That gap, which was about 3.5 seconds or more when Reimer was in the second spot, is now down to within 2.5 almost, as Walrus seems to be having a quick car and is trying to close in the McLaren in question. Closest battle on track still, 3.5 tenths here between Bonget and Charlie for the 4th spot here. Of course, remember, Charlie has a 3-second penalty to his name, but either way, some on-track action happening here. We're going to have every chance we can to tag along with it. 0.3 of a second. Bonget looks to hang with the slipstream that time, and we'll have a peek down to the inside of Charlie. I think he knows that if he pressures Charlie enough, Charlie will continue to go off track, as he's done again there. And now that's about the 5th time that we've seen Charlie go off track. He's only got 3 seconds of penalty to his name. I don't know how much track extending you need to do to avoid it, but Charlie's doing just that. Down the back straight they go, heading into turn 5. It looks as like we're almost halfway through the Grand Prix. We've got a yellow flag. Shiesty has gone round. Yes, he has, and well, he's taken the sign with him there, I'm afraid. And it looks as if the rain really light here, although, again, doesn't appear to be stopping quite yet. Curveball into the pit lane once more. I was wondering what happened there with Shiesty. Suddenly he was around. Looks as if he's got the car back up to gear for the time being. Oh, that was a big wiggle that time from Bonget. Well deep through the Portimão corners into the gravel he goes. As Guzman, a 3-second penalty. That's a little different. Now, where did he pick up that penalty? Did he go wide going out of Galp corner down the pit straight? I think that's probably what he's done. Very odd place to pick up a penalty, and, well, Guzman now at a disadvantage, especially considering Walrus is really closing in on that McLaren. We'll tag along with that one in a bit. Shiesty back to Owaz now, the closest battle on track, this being 8.5 tenths of a second here. Bonget now 3-second penalty. So the Ferrari and the Haas both on level pegging as far as penalties are concerned. Wish they could provide the spectators with a broadcast of the weather. Well, I tell you what, there's a lot of things I wish this game did. It's just not even almost worth asking anymore, because this game never does choose to give us what we need. I would only be fine with having selectable camera angles, but well, in my rant there, Pontiac Bandit has decided to retire on track. It's been a very difficult day for the AlphaTauri team in question, and he'll be our first retirement of the day, albeit the track should stay green here, considering it was a manual pause into the menu and then retire type thing. Well, to the outside now of Shiesty on Owa. Now he will get that 9th spot. To your point there, Kate, and an interesting thing that Gran Turismo 7, I don't know how much you play Gran Turismo 7, that is a very good game for broadcasters, because not only do you have several selectable camera angles to your convenience, you also have the MFD completely usable. So you can look at the weather, you can look at how much fuel they have left, you can look at the brake balance they're using, you can look at what traction control setting they're using, you can look at their timing, you can look at the track map. It's brilliant what that game's able to do. To the inside now looks Owa, and I tell you what, Shiesty has not had the best braking in towards the Portimão corners. They're going to be side by side here, going up through Sector 3 now. Shiesty's going to nudge his way ahead of the Red Bull in question here, but good little battle going on here for the majority of time. Still 5.5 tenths of a second. Remember, the dry weather is supposed to still happen at some point. Again, the race has been completely dry, well, not completely dry, but green flag the entire way through. I did not know that, but you love broadcasting GT7 then. I do. Only problem with broadcasting Gran Turismo 7, every league I broadcast is at least like an hour and a half, like a track like race time. It gets a little rough, especially because GTA 7 leagues are not very popular as far as drivers. The most I've ever seen in a race, of course, you can only have 16 cars in the lobby at the same time. The most I've ever commentated on was maybe 8. Round the outside is Owa on Shiesty here, and of course, when you get only 8 drivers on the real life circuits that you have, it does get a little bit on the boring side. You really do need to start pulling things out of thin air to talk about, but then again, I suppose I'm doing that right now, aren't I? Bong it now within half a second on Charlie. This is for the 4th spot. Both of these drivers on 3 seconds of penalty. These two have been battling it out left and right so far the entirety of the day, dry and wet. And it's been a great battle to keep in touch with, and now that they're both on penalty, it should mean that, well, we get fair attempts from the both of them. Making their way out of Gelp corner now down the pit straight. It's a half a second the gap. I don't believe, though, Bongit's going to have enough even energy store that he does have saved up to try to overtake the Haas here. He does get within 0.6 of a second, and that's going to be about it. Atop the grid, Walrus is within 2.5 seconds here of the top spot of Guzman with the 3-second penalty. Now, mind you, Reimer was about outside of 3.5. When he got overtaken by Walrus, and since then, Walrus has been improving a lot. Agnote into the pit lane. He's put on an additional set of the intermediate tires, which I find a little bold. Of course, they've been on those tires for a good, spanning from 8 to 10 laps now, but I would figure you just stay on the one set that you're on now and trying to stick it out for the dry that we do know is supposedly going to happen at some point. Interesting decisions there. I'm not really sure, but that's what Agnote has decided. Making their way in through Sector 3 now. We'll go on with that in a little bit. Shiesty. This thing, the last time I stopped to watch your live stream, it'd be cool if you get a post-race interview for the winner of your broadcast. Now, I did used to do post-race interviews. There's a couple of reasons why I don't necessarily do them anymore. Number one, because of the fact that the drivers themselves have to, make sure that they have their enable voice to be shared setting on, which most of the time, I hate to say it, not a lot of them actually know where that setting is, and then what'll end up happening is I'll be interviewing drivers. I'll usually take the podium 3, and we'll get all 3 drivers not having their microphones on, and it just became a colossal waste of time. Number 2, I gotta wake up and leave the house very early. I can't really be sitting. If I didn't tell you this already, I'm going to a radio and TV broadcasting school, which is this has kind of inspired my trip into trying to do that. I have to wake up quite early to attend that, so I don't know. And this is the latest time of day race that I have. Usually the leagues I'll have start at 9:30. That'll be. Was that a car to the inside? Yes, it is. Owa's off to the inside there. I didn't even really get a chance to look at that, but Owa having a bit of a spin there and has now lost the spot to Shiesty. Hang on just a minute. Can I perhaps go along with the stream? Yeah, now let me tell you something. The post-race interviews are fun, but as Guzman into the pit lane here. Sorry about that. Oh, well, that was interesting. As I watched back the stream, Owa had pretty much completely just gone off the curb and in through the corner. Walrus now picks up a 3-second penalty for multiple warnings. Guzman as well puts on an additional set of the intermediate tires, which again kind of puzzles me a little bit. We're getting closer to about 10 laps to go here. I would kind of think that we start to see the clouds start to dry up here, but that's not necessarily the case. Charlie is the next driver to try to make his way into the pit lane. I wonder, he's probably going to be putting on intermediates here. So what, 10 laps is all they could have done on the intermediates? That seems like kind of not a lot. Huh. Little surprise. That is going to very much spread out our grid here. There's a big slide there for Bongit. Closest battle on track now is that of Manson to Hemphead for the 11th spot. We'll go along with that one. This is currently the closest battle on track. Well, it looks as if the two Red Bulls, well, I was going to say inverting positions, but Owa into the pit lane now. He is also put on an additional set of the medium tires. If I look and see, Walrus and Reimer have yet to stop a second time, as well as Bong, Damon, and Urban. Manson's actually gotten around Shiesty there in the first corner. I believe Shiesty was on his way out of the pit lane, and Manson has had to get around the Haas there, and he's done just that. Whew, that was a close one. Walrus on his way in now. Reimer decides to stay out, but Walrus has fit. The second set of intermediates, as we're seeing, is the common denominator amongst the drivers on the grid, which, again, very surprising if you ask me. That will promote Guzman, back to the second spot. Walrus down to third. All three of the drivers in kind of contention for this podium now, with 3-second penalties, as you can tell. Guzman on 3, which he picked up relatively early on. Walrus quite recently, within the last couple of laps. Oh, where am I trying to find here? So Bong it into the pit lane now, and again, an additional set of intermediate tires being taken. And that'll relegate him only to 6th, unless he battles with Charlie on the way. Uh-oh. Oh. What? What? Red flag? What? What is going on here? What in the hell am I looking at? This is not. I will say this is not just a me problem, as all the other drivers on the grid have this exact same issue. That was a very out-of-pocket red flag, has to be said, and I don't even know what I'm looking at now. We saw the lobby host of Urban unfortunately leave the session. The game has, for whatever reason, decided to display the red flag. Well, the one red flag we have this season in the CCRL, as far as I know of, is due to game error? Like, what do we even do? We're well past halfway through the Grand Prix. I don't want to say that this would make the result final, but it just might. I don't know what the rules are with this league. I know in my other one, once you're past halfway, results are final at the time of the crash. So we'll do the we'll just pause here for a minute. I'll keep tabs on the Discord, keep you all updated. But this is a very odd turn of events here. Yet to see this error happen. I've seen errors before, but not quite like this. Still nothing to be had in the Discord. Bung, it's not very happy, as so I'm sure you'd understand. Still no. Johnny Damon asking if we have a plan. Well, I'd certainly like to know that. Johnny Damon leaving the session. Urban, the lobby host, is going to be coming up with that plan very shortly if he hasn't already, if there's not a set plan in place. Wait, what? Sorry, Lola is entering Formula E? What? Urban saying, bear with us a minute. Hang on just a minute. This is interesting. The Lola? Well, I'm still checking the Discord here. Unfortunately, there's not much to go off of for the time being. Though what I will say is this, we are, I think, past the halfway point of the Grand Prix. I can just look and see when the crash had happened. So there we were, lap 20. That is beyond halfway. That would tell me that this race may not get back underway here. Several drivers leaving the session now. I have yet to know. See, I can't leave the session, though. I'm stuck here. The drivers are able to leave the session because they have the availability to have the pause menu. I do not. I am stuck here, waiting for things to happen. Pretty much everybody leaving the session now, just waiting to see. Still no word in the Discord. Bear with us. So getting word now from Urban that we're going to do a sprint race with the grid order being whatever it was before the game had crashed. I will need another invite, so I'm going to chill here and wait. Oh, there it goes. Finally. So once again, the word being that the organizing team has decided we're going to do an 11-lap sprint race to decide today's winner. We're going to go off of the starting grid. No, not the starting grid. The whatever grid that we had finished with after the game had crashed or before the crash. So the latest grid that we do have will be what we start with. I'm assuming it's only going to be about 11 laps. 12 laps left in the race. The sprint race is 10 laps. Just waiting for Hemphead and Owa to actually leave the session so I could get in the new lobby. Oh, goodness me, we're back. Oh, they're actually lining up to the grid. Look at the formation lap. Oh, goodness me, this game is such a piece of garbage. That was weird. Okay, well, just waiting for. Oh, there's the invite from Urban. Thank goodness. Now able to leave the session and rejoin. Looks like we are going to have ourselves a conclusion to this story after all, which is so great to see. So odd. This game, something else, man. So hopefully, again, it's going to be a 10-lap sprint race here. So, anyways, if you're just joining us once again and you're wondering what's going on and why that's going on, we've had the game spontaneously crash with about 12 laps remaining in our Portuguese Grand Prix redemption night. So, what we're going to do, we're going to field a 10-lap sprint race, and with the grid as it was prior to the time of the crash, and we're going to get ourselves some racing here. So we're just waiting for. Oh, there we go. So I'll start the hard recording once again. So, If you're just joining us once again, you've missed a pretty interesting Portuguese Grand Prix so far, and it's very interesting the conclusion that we're going to have. So essentially what's happened is this, at the 20 lap mark, or 21 lap mark, we've had ourselves the game spontaneously crash on us. So what we're going to do now, we're going to field all the cars as they were when the crash happened on the grid. They're going to have a grid start here, 10 lap sprint race to decide the winner of this Portuguese Grand Prix. The penalties, of course, will have to be carried over manually from the first race to the second. So keep in mind that none of these results are going to be final until steward reports and the penalties are applied, because there are some drivers, there are a good couple of drivers on 3-second time penalty or more. Dry track, it seems, as it was supposed to be dry towards the back end of the Grand Prix. Shouldn't have to be any tire strategy going on here. Full out softs to the end, maybe mediums if you're interested in that. Same setups as before. Remember, this is still technically under parc fermé conditions, so we shouldn't have any drivers messing about on tire strategy. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around on the stream as long as you have been. Hopefully, we'll get you a conclusion to this Grand Prix soon enough. So remember, formation lap should be off, as this is technically a red flag start. So whenever you see those cars on the grid, it'll be time to go. And just waiting to see the grid and for the lights to turn on. It has been one long night here. We've already surpassed the hour and 15-minute mark. That'll be typically about the time a race broadcasts finish, give or take. You know, and we were on our way to be able to have a green flag session all the way through. It was going to be a quick Grand Prix today. And, well, we've had a bit of a technical issue going on there. And here we go. Lights turning on now for what should have been... this is the third time today. And lights out, and away we go once more. Reimer off the line here. Will have the outside on Guzman this time as they head into the first corner. Remember, Reimer will get out ahead as we look behind Urban. Oh, that's a big accident there, and I think Johnny Damon may have had a spin. Walrus lost a spot there. The Ferrari of Bung now going around. Several drivers going around here. So much carnage happening here in the early goings. Walrus getting around Urban, around the right side as well. Incredibly difficult up the hill. Somehow, I mean, I don't even know what's happening here, really. We've got a good even mix. 50%, pretty much. I mean, it's hard to split 13 and a half, but to the inside now, curveball, trying to go. Oh my goodness, there's so much going on here. 6 drivers on the mediums, the rest on the softs. As remember the first time, all but 3, I think, chose the mediums off the start. And so now the drivers have realized that those soft tires are only going to be able to go about 10 laps or so. And so now we're in the situation where the soft tires will be great here at the start and will fade away rather quickly. So for Reimer, at the moment, will probably be in trouble from Angry Walrus in behind. But what will happen is this. Reimer will start to pull away eventually once we kind of get in a couple of laps in here. So down the pit straight they go. Reimer has a 5.5 of a second advantage over Walrus, but Walrus is closing fast, as you can see, doing his best, getting within the slipstream of the Mercedes here, and it's not quite going to be made this time. Hemphead looking for it here. Manson side by side with Curveball into the first corner. Difficult corner again to try to go side by side through. Curveball goes wide. Hemphead getting around Charlie there, getting in towards the fourth spot. Walrus now down to the inside on Reimer. This is going to be a ridiculous move, perhaps a race-winning one if he can make it happen. To the inside he goes. Guzman has had a poor start all the way back in P11. I'm pretty sure he's lost several in the opening stages. Yes, he has -8 spots. The battle for the lead now, side by side, into the Samsung corner. And Reimer stays ahead for now, but Walrus still on the soft tires here, still within a tenth of a second here as they make their way through the Craig Jones corner and up towards Portimão corner now. I mean, this is going to be a ridiculous battle for the win here. Reimer doing his best, 0.3 of a second to try to hold off the Aston Martin, pressuring behind Guzman. I mean, I don't even know what happened on the start for him. So unfortunate. He was well up in the grid there, and I'm sure he's not going to be happy that this grid had to be restarted and that the sprint race needed to happen. Walrus down to the inside, 1/10.5 as they make their way up the hill and down the pit straight. DRS going to be activated this time by, so they'll get it exiting turn 4. Reimer, look at this, round the outside. He's going to have to try to hold it there as much as he can. Yes, he will. Round the outside. Reimer held that spot so well. One of the only successful side-by-side attempts we've seen going through that part of the track. I mean, ridiculous. Curveball now trying to have a look at Guzman here. Guzman trying to close in on Owa. Remember, Owa's we got the 2 leader side by side through the VIP tower corner. Reimer on the outside has the better acceleration for the time being. And again, those soft tires are only going to get worse as the race goes on. Remember, the last time we start to see those soft tires fall off really around the 7 lap mark. Only 10 or 11 laps is the extent at which we saw drivers take those softs. So the medium tire runners are going to be at an advantage here in just a couple of laps time. But for the time being, Walrus still doing his best. 1/10.5 the gap now, still closing in. He'll have DRS going down the pit straight. Whether or not he's able to use it, I'm not sure. Reimer ahead. Has a little bit more battery saved up than Walrus, but as they make their way through Galp, whoever gets the better exit here will have the advantage into the first corner. Walrus definitely had a better acceleration that time down the pit straight. Reimer tries to weave to the inside, goes back to the outside, chooses to finally defend the inside. He's going to have to send the Aston Martin the long way around, and there he goes. The move round the outside, and Walrus takes the lead of the remainder of the Grand Prix here, and Reimer, I think, will have DRS here. Yes, he will. Down the backstretch now, heading in towards the VIP tower corner, and it looks as if Reimer is just too far away for the time being to make that one happen. Guzman within 1/10.5 of Owa here, down to the inside. He will well outbrake the Red Bull there. He will get that spot nicely. Shiesty, I think, may have gotten into the back of Manson there. Guzman now up to 7th if he can make it happen. Yes, he does. Guzman suddenly now making moves left and right. Oh, and the Aston Martin, that's a big slide. I think he may have gotten into the McLaren there. That was really close. Guzman now up to 6th somehow. Oh, that was a really close one. I mean, that Aston Martin, I was just along with it there on the side screen, nearly completely chopped off the front end of Guzman, and somehow, even despite barely hitting the car, he has stayed quite all right. 0.3 of a second now between Owa and Shiesty. Remember, the battle for the lead. A second is the gap. Walrus out ahead of Reimer again. Walrus on what would arguably be the worst tire compound towards the back end of the race here. But that Aston Martin also has been quicker than the Mercedes for the fair portion of today. Those two have been battling left and right, even in the beginning of the Grand Prix, which we saw. But now, 3-car battle for the 6th spot. Guzman is going to have to try to close into Charlie here. As you can see, Charlie a driver on the medium tire, so Guzman not really in a position to try to make the move over the Haas. The next driver on the softs is Hemphead up in 4th, an additional 2 seconds up the road. So Guzman, for the time being, has made all the moves he can, being that he's on the medium tires, now on level pegging with the drivers around him. Bongett trying the outside, or I think rather Johnny Damon down to the inside. Bongett now trying to pressure the Alfa Romeo here. Agnote further behind, not really close enough to make anything happen. So Walrus now, as he makes his way into Segre's corner, 2.5, nearly 2-second advantage over Reimer with 6 laps to go this time by. Guzman now, 3.5 of a second back to Charlie as they make their way through Segris. He'll have DRS, but I'm not sure he'll need to use it. This McLaren looks lightning quick here as they make their way through Galp corner now. Can Guzman stay on the throttle enough to stay in this battle? He'll have DRS. It'll be activated now. And will he have the opportunity to look down to the inside of the Haas? The Haas does not have the slipstream or DRS to the Williams ahead, and Guzman's going to get that one about 75 meters before even they get to the braking zone. So Guzman, who had a very poor start, arguably getting caught up in the carnage, back up to 5th. That guy has battled back. There is a reason why that driver won 4 races in a row and is a perennial, and oftentimes a winner here as well, that obviously. But either way, 5.5 of a second, the gap from Charlie up to Guzman. It looks as if Manson gets around Owa. That's on the outside, even before they get to Samsung corner here. Down the hill, it looks as if Owa, 4.5 of a second. Shiesty about half a second back to his teammate. The battle for the lead now outside of almost 3 seconds. Walrus is running away with this one here. But a good news here is the fact that the Mercedes team is actually pulling together quite a halfway decent result. Urban up 2 spots since the race resumption. It'll be a double podium here, perhaps, for the Mercedes team. Hemphead up 5 spots since the beginning. Would be classified as driver of the day in the back half of the Grand Prix here. So 4 laps to go for Reimer to try to claw back to Angry Walrus. Again, the medium tires, we think, will probably come into their own here as Owa gets down to the inside of Manson. That'll be for the 8th spot, and the overtake is made. So Walrus, we assume, could be under pressure once the medium tires become the preferred tire to be on. Agnote, a 3-second time penalty, in addition to any penalty he may have in the full Grand Prix that we were supposed to finish earlier on, but then obviously had technical difficulties. Guzman here, 0.4 of a second doing it. Oh, and Hemphead is completely spun round, and I'm afraid that is on complete error of the Williams there. Guzman following in behind, and that Williams had lost the car completely, going around up through Samsung corner on acceleration, and Hemphead falls down to 7th. So Guzman now up to 4th, and I think this is pretty much where Guzman, I mean, it was pretty certain that Guzman was going to be within the top 3. And unfortunately, the start did not go well. He started this race second, this sprint race here. Started at second, down 2 spots, so he's at least in the same ballpark as he would have been. I'm sure he wouldn't have been happy if he finished, that far down the grid in which he was after the start of the Grand Prix, down all the way in like 9th, I believe. And he's made his way, clawed his way back up. Very good showing for Guzman, as with just a couple of laps to go here. Johnny Damon, 3.5 on curveball as they make their way into Lago corner now. Looks as if Damon's still doing his best, not quite close enough, and he doesn't have the traction exiting turn 4 to make something happen. Exiting at turn 5 they go. Charlie doing his best to... Charlie doing his best to try to get back to Guzman here, but the 2 Haas drivers in good form, as it turns out. Oh, as the Red Bull of Agnote, he's gone off, unfortunately, going up through Samsung corner, and I believe that that's going to pretty much solidify the P13 result there for Agnote. Very unfortunate for him. Oh, goodness me, I am tired. As I was going to have, what is this, 2 laps to go. Sorry, 3 laps to go here. We're coming up on 2.5. Walrus is... as we've had Agnote, I'm afraid, around again. Walrus has a 3-second advantage over Reimer, but it's not exactly... well, it is getting a little bit bigger again. We kind of figured that Aston Martin was better on the straight line. The 2 Haas drivers now within a couple of tenths of each other here as they make their way up through turn 4. Curveball, 0.5 of a second back to R. Manson here for the 9th spot. But more importantly, I'm interested to see what these two Haas drivers decide to do. I would argue they're pretty even on pace, as we have the Ferrari of Bong it round at the back. Oh, he's exited the corner. He's clobbered the inside wall. I think, though, fortunately for him, he hasn't lost any front wing, so the track will stay green. Half a second back to Owa here. Coming up to the line this time will be 2 laps to go here in the Portuguese Grand Prix. 0.3 of a second for Manson trying to get back to Owa. Curveball in this battle as well, although Curveball has not really had the day he's wanted and is relatively on the outside looking into this battle. Not a good place you want to be with only 2 laps to go here, but in fairness, that's still 2 laps of time to really turn the tables. Manson now 0.5 of a second here back to Owa as they make their way through a Galp corner and eventually down the pit straight. DRS will be activated here. As you can see, the Aston Martin using as much battery as he possibly can. Now, really closing on the Red Bull here, down to the inside. And I think, nope, Manson is not going to have the real estate to do it that time. Oh! And that was a hefty impact there with the Alfa Romeo in behind. And Johnny Damon has, well, there's no other way to say this. He has completely plowed through the back end of Manson there. Pause. Yeah, that is a very unfortunate turn of events, and I'm not sure. Well, I don't really know what the reason was. That was a egregious miss of the braking zone there, has to be said, I think. Oh, as Urban spins, Guzman back to the podium. And what a turn of events. Guzman going to get back to the podium after all. Goodness me. And, I mean, Johnny Damon, just clear error for him there. Of course, nothing intentional, I don't think. I would highly doubt he would do something like that, but a huge error there for Johnny Damon at Manson's expense. Well, the other Aston Martin of Angry Walrus starting the final lap of this very long night that the drivers have had, and I have had so far. It's been a fun one with both the Redemption Sprint race to begin with, and, well, it's transpired into a memorable Grand Prix, some of which for the wrong reasons, but also for the great racing that we have had. 0.7 of a second here between the two Haas drivers, the closest battle on track for their final trip. Down the pit straight and into the first corner. It doesn't look as if they're going to make any moves happen. So Walrus through turn 5 for the final time does have Bong in his sights. Oh, as Johnny Damon, well, he's retired in the pit lane. I think that's purely just to avoid a steward report there because he definitely would have had one on the way. Johnny Damon retiring. I will finish 12th. Well, I say finish. 12th for him. Two Haas drivers. Well, I tell you what, nearly a collision there exiting VIP Tower, but Angry Walrus now making his way out of the Portimão section of the track, heading in towards turn 13, Sagres and Galp for the final time. There's a driver that's, well, up 2 spots here in the sprint portion of this race, the second sprint portion of this race. And, well, I tell you what, he has had to fight for this one again today, but a very quick driver, undoubtedly the quickest driver on the grid all day long, as Angry Walrus will cross the line to win the Redemption Night Portuguese Grand Prix. Reimer will finish second. Guzman, a great bounce back from him after having the start to the session here, this sprint race, falling all the way back to the back end of the grid, and then comes back up and finishes third. Of course, a lot of luck from the drivers around him. The two Haas drivers will finish simultaneously 5th and 6th. Good result for them. Hemphead 7th, Owa 8th, Curveball 9th, Manson off in the grass, way up the hill there. So Manson will be 10th, Onyote will be 11th, Bung at 12th. Keep in mind as well that these results are not final. Of course, we still have the penalties to be manually applied from the first portion of the race that obviously won't have transpired into this lobby. And then any other steward reports later on in the week. Onyote and Bong making their way around the final couple of corners here. For Hotspot, it has been a pleasure joining you once again here in the CCRL. Next week we do head to the Barcelona-Catalonia circuit in Barcelona, Spain for the 17th round of the season. And then be sure to look out for Las Vegas and Baku in the coming weeks. It's been a very fun one tonight. Hope you've had fun, and we'll see you next week.